Welcome to Absolutely PlayStation Steam Gamers.
Oh, wait. Pause. Alright, we're good.
Welcome to Absolutely PlayStation Steam Gamers. Today, Coda and I will be talking about a theory he has regarding the end of Halo Reach now that I've finally finished playing that game. Coda, do you want to take it
Yeah,
regarding what your theory is?
I'll kind of lay some groundwork here first. So, the last mission in Halo Reach, spoiler for a 11-year-old game? An old game now. At the very last mission, Lone Wolf, you're kind of fighting for your life until you can't fight no more. Eventually your armor gets too worn down, it breaks apart, and you overrun. While you're doing that, at all the ammo caches and health caches around the area that you're fighting are Spartan 3s, which, from the lore perspective, it's a little bit of a weird thing. There's the idea that maybe Bungie just didn't care because it was their last Halo game, but there's not supposed to be Spartan 3s on Reach other than Noble Team. And we'll kind of go more into how that is and where I think these Spartan 3s then come from within the lore.
Okay, well, first, let's start from the top. Explain to me what you were explaining before about what Noble Team is, and how the Spartans are divvied up into their different regiments or units.
Right. So,
Just to lay a little groundwork.
So, to really go into the origins of the Spartan 3s, we have to go into the origins of the Spartan Project, which started way back before even the Master Chief. There was what was called the Orion Project. Sergeant Johnson, actually from the first Halo trilogy, it was a member of the Orion Project. They were basically somewhat augmented humans, not all that well augmented, and it was ultimately a failure. But from this, some other things happened, like Sergeant Johnson became immune to the Flood because he has radioactive blood and stuff like that. But it was a failure. They shut down the program, and then comes a lady by the name of Catherine Halsey, who is basically 3 times smarter than Tony Stark.
Doubt, but okay, keep going.
She basically is able to understand any part of the human biological genome and is able to use that knowledge to figure out not only how to augment the genes, but how each augmentation will chain react together in order to increase their overall efficiency. She can augment your eyes, and in doing so, your reflexes also get a little bit of a kick from the eye augment. And all this stuff kind of combines together into what she makes as the Spartan 2 program. Now at the time, the UNSC, the military people, were fighting against just some other humans in space.
Space pirates.
Yeah, basically space pirates, insurrectionists. They were fighting against them, and they're like, you know what, super soldiers, we're just gonna co-optly just take them out from behind the scenes with basically gods among men. So that was what the Spartan 2 project was. She was given a lot of funding. She went around and abducted a bunch of kids.
Good start.
Yeah. From that, we got the Spartan 2s. Covenant show up. Oh, crap. Well, now we're having to send these super soldiers out, and they're dying. Not very many of them are dying, but there's not very many of them to begin with. So they're
them dying is unusual because
right.
They're super soldiers. You expect them to just take care of whatever issue you're dealing with.
Right, and it shows the threat of the Covenant, and they're like, okay, we need to start being able to mass produce Spartans. And Catherine was kind of growing a bit of a conscience because she really liked a certain Spartan named John 117. She was very affectionate, motherly towards him. And because of that, she kind of became too protective of all of her Spartans. So they're like, okay, we'll just cut her out of the project, and we'll just take one of her Spartans and have him train these new Spartans. So they staged the death of Kurt. Now that'll come into my theory about these other Spartans. Oni does this quite a few times where they take a dead Spartan and they're not really dead, and they use them for other things. Kurt then started training the Spartan 3s, and he kind of went down the same kind of character arc as Catherine, where at first he was just doing it for the mission, then he was like, these are my people. So the first group he made in, what year was it? 2536 would be the Spartan Alpha Company. And from this, we get members of the noble team like Carter, June, Emil, and Tom, who was the original Noble Six before we became Noble Six.
Correct.
Then they went off on a mission, and all of them died. Every single member died on their third mission in. So they're like, okay, group 2. But mind you, these are all children. They're at the most 15, 16. So then we have Beta Company. Beta Company was much more successful. They lasted for a good 12 missions or so. And all but 2 died. By the name of Tom and Lucy. Those were the only ones that survived. And then he got the third group going, Gamma Company. But by then, the Human Covenant War was coming to its end, and some bad stuff happened on the planet where the Spartans were being trained. So Gamma Company kind of mostly got wiped out, except for one full unit that still survives today and is part of the Spartan Force. So there's a lot of dead in these groups. Some of them were pulled out by Oni before they went on their suicide mission. Those being the ones that we know of in Noble Team, as well as a few others that did other things in books and whatnot.
Okay, so the Alpha Company and Beta Company, we got them to replace our Noble Team prior to them going on their catastrophic missions.
Right. So Noble Team was made up before those teams got wiped out. So they're accounted for.
Okay.
There are 13 dead bodies on Reach, where no Spartan 3s are supposed to be. There are Spartan 2s active at the time on Reach, as we learned in the Fall of Reach book. But not Spartan 3s, aside from Noble Team. So the question is, what company do these people come from? And why are they there, as opposed to anywhere else?
Right.
The first answer to the theory is that they are members of Gamma Team that were finishing up their training on Reach. This doesn't work to the knowledge of the Ghosts of Onyx book, which is the telling of the training of the Spartan 3s. They are being trained on Onyx, which is very far away from Reach. And, well, I mean, it's connected through, a Forerunner portal, but that's not the point. They're far away geographically. And,
right. Okay.
And most of them are finishing up their training there, about to graduate to be sent off on missions, but they wouldn't be yet. And as I said, only one team is actually alive by the time we even get to that point in the book. It skips a time jump.
Okay, I do want to say, though, having only one team be alive does not exclude them from being the dead Spartans we find on Reach.
It doesn't, but it doesn't make sense why they would be on Reach, and not if Gamma Company's still doing their training.
Correct. There's other reasons why it couldn't be them. But you said there is a portal that connects Onyx with Reach.
There is a portal. So as you find out at the end of Ghost of Onyx, Onyx is what's called a shield world. Basically, it's the opposite of a Halo ring. Whereas the Halo ring kills everything in the universe, the shield world is like a dome that protects you in the center. And through the center, you're able to get to Reach, which is how they eventually escape from being trapped inside of Onyx. But Gamma Team is pretty much completely ruled out by the timing, because by the time Gamma Team was being trained, yes, Reach was under attack. But they were also on the other side of the universe.
Okay. So the it's a possibility, but the timing just probably
yeah.
doesn't work out. So, what's your second theory for this?
So the second theory is that maybe they come from Beta Team. Now, actually, several Spartans from Beta Team do survive. This is because they they are they were a little bit better trained, basically, by Kurt. Kurt wanted to really focus on making sure they did their best to live after what happened to Alpha Team, which is why Lucy and Tom definitely do survive, and they go on to also help train the Spartan 3s. So from this, we also know that Spartan B312, aka wait, which number is he? He's one of the Noble Team members. B312 is us. Noble 6, yeah. We survive, as well as Catherine B320. Cat, she survives. There's also Team X-Ray, which is completely unaccounted for in, like, if they lived or not during the operation. They're just flat out MIA. And they are a strong contender for being the ones that we see, except for they're just one fire team of about 5 Spartans. So they could be half of the number of what we're looking at.
You said there were 13 that we found on Reach in that final mission? Okay.
And most fire teams were making up of about 5 Spartans.
So what about Alpha Company?
Alpha Company is where I think the majority of the Black Ops Spartan 3s come from. Because they were the first group that was completely wiped out. There is absolutely no survivors to speak of for them. That means there's no one to say that if Oni abducted them or not. Which Oni very much so likes to abduct children. The only ones that were pulled out of this group were Emil, Carter, and June. All of whom are Noble Team members. All of whom are Oni Black Ops members. There's also Rosanada, A344. She's not an official member of Noble Team, but she was a replacement for Emil because Emil kind of goes a little bit too chaotic whenever it comes to the insurrectionists. And as a result, he's a bit of an unstable individual to be sending on missions for that. So if they ever had to deal with insurrectionists, she'd come in. Her status is unknown. Yeah. Also, Kevin A282 is confirmed alive after the fall of Reach and is active in 2553. So I'm saying they pretty much faked the deaths of Alpha Company. Well, we know some of them definitely died on that mission because we have live footage that shows Team Wolfpack, the main 3 from that company, dying. But almost everyone there that has a name, that has a number associated, is part of Oni whenever we hear about them later.
Okay. So it seems like Alpha Company is probably the strongest probability for being where most of these Spartans come from. I have a question. This is coming from somebody who's only played Reach, so everything is a spoiler to me. Everything is pure conjecture for me. For a clandestine, intergalactic space force that is known for abducting people, how sure are you that you know the full roster of both Alpha and Bravo Company?
Oh, the full roster, as far as the numbers go, we know the beginning number to the end number, so we know how many children were in each group.
My point is for a clandestine government organization that is known for abducting people.
Right.
How unlikely is it that they abducted more than they said and have other clandestine groups besides the Noble Team?
Oh, it's 100% possible. They did this since the Spartan 2 program.
Right.
They've been pulling
that is
out.
my personal...
That's where George of Noble Team was one of them.
Right. And I guess that's where I'm falling at, just kind of hearing your basic accounting of all of this. You're trying to trace every single Spartan from point A to point B, and then they went to this planet, and then they died here. What I'm hearing is that it seems like the Spartan program in general was started in a very nefarious way. And
Oh, I
that
mean, yeah, it's a
leaves, I
military
mean,
organization.
right. So that very much leaves open the possibility that the rosters that you base all of the information you have off of, well, they aren't fabricated. They very much could be edited, and clandestine groups could have been splintered off at any point.
Mhm. Yeah, there. I mean, there's some definite facts that even from Gamma, they could have taken people early to use. So Alpha's not a guarantee that they're from. It's just the most likely based on what we know of the three groups. If I was gonna say a large portion of Spartans were grabbed, I mean, no one's dead men tell no tales, you know.
Right.
uh,
Correct. I have another question. You said the Tony Stark chick who started this whole program,
Catherine Halsey. Yeah.
who's great at gene editing, was kicked out of the program.
Yes, they still used her research. They
What about
basically.
her? What happened? Could you explain what happened to her?
So she was kind of moved around to other areas because she's also, an expert engineer. She was able to study the Covenant technology and understand it faster than anyone else. She invented the Lanier armor. She was moved to other projects until
Okay, so she's
eventually,
accounted for.
right? Until eventually the actions of Oni and her were discovered after the war. It was found out by everyone that, hey, they took a bunch of children, uh, and they kind of just scapegoated that off onto Halsey, and she was for a while declared a war criminal until she became useful again, and I guess she's not anymore.
Okay, so Catherine is sent off to work on these other projects. Is her entire time accounted for? Could
No,
she not have started a clandestine Spartan program without?
she wouldn't. She's not fully accounted for, definitely, but her motivations and personality and what actions she would take is pretty well accounted for.
You did say that she seemed to see the Spartans as
Right.
children, so that
So
does make sense.
it's known that she was on Reach when it fell. Actually, no, her time is accounted for up until after the Reach War, because she was on Reach when it fell, and she survived by actually June, uh, saving her life. You saw this in Reach. He goes off and protects her. Uh, and she hides in an underground bunker with a bunch of the surviving Spartan 2s of Red Team. And those Spartans, she somehow makes it to Onyx via the portal, and she meets up with the Gamma Company Spartans and Tom and Lucy, along with the remnants of Blue Team. So she's
So
pretty
is it
well accounted
completely?
for.
So is it out of the realm of possibilities that she could have made another set of Spartans
I
that looked at her as a mother figure and came to Reach to try to protect her?
it's kind of out there because she doesn't have the financial backing or resources to do that outside the military. However,
Well,
there was a general or a colonel or something that Kurt was that was the one that came up with the idea to make Kurt make the Spartan threes. His accountability is nowhere. It's known that he's dead currently, but he could have done other such projects in the meantime. Um, However, they are labeled as Spartan 3s, and they cost so much money to produce that, like, a single piece of Melanier armor, or even the spy armor that the Spartan 3s wore, was as much as a battleship, which the humans were losing all the time. So it's interesting if they would be able to afford multiple projects going on all at the same time.
I find in an intergalactic civilization that the price of a battleship probably doesn't rank too high on GDP.
It's like half of a civilization that then got nuked several times and was constantly on its back foot.
Still, they have interplanetary travel.
Right, but also the Spartans do die, and so would you risk all that, especially because they can't do anything about the Covenant ships that glass planets? But if you put more money into researching Mac cannons, which are the big, like, gun that is on the ship that can tear a hole through the Covenant ships,
Anti-air personnel guns. Okay. I know. I'm just wildly speculating with zero facts or logic to back me up. I'm just kind of coming at this more from a general storytelling perspective. What are ways that you could explain Spartans being there? I honestly think your Alpha Company, a combination of your Alpha Company and they probably had a couple other Black Op teams besides the Noble team, is probably where this comes down.
There's another theory that they're ODSTs in Melania armor. Because the Spartan 3 Melania armor is not as advanced or as difficult to control as the type that the Spartan 2s wore, because they're not as strong as the Spartan 2. So an idea could be that as Reach was being invaded, because they were developing the Melania armor with Halsey, maybe she had some sets around, and they used those sets to equip some ODSTs with to help fight. That's an idea.
Well, I think that's what we had 5 or 6 theories. Maybe 3 of them were good theories, and none of those theories were mine. But hey, that's what we're here for. I think that at least puts us in the ballpark of where those came from. So, any closing thoughts?
No, just a fun little theory. Think about next time you're playing through the Halo Reach story, when you get to that last mission, go look around at all the different dead Spartans, and maybe they have like something written on their shoulder or something no one's noticed.
In 11 years.
In 11 years.
And with that, we'll wrap it up. This was Coda and Shank with Absolutely PlayStation Steam Gamers. We will see you guys next time.